Greetings, B-movie aficionados.
Let's go and kick some bottom.
Thank you, and have a nice day.
All right, welcome to episode 2 of A Couple of Flicks. So, as you know, last time I'm Tristan, and you guys, yeah.
I am Nick.
And I'm Zach.
So, what have you guys watched lately?
Lately, I actually saw that Hustlers movie that you saw the other week,
Nice.
or at least the other episode. Yeah, that was the most recent new movie I saw.
Yeah. What'd you think of that?
Yeah, I honestly wasn't too impressed. It was alright. It wasn't like crappy bad, but I wasn't like interested or excited or too drawn into it. So
Yeah.
But it was good, you know.
Yeah. I'm not like super crazy about it. I mean, I hardly even remember it. I liked it, but that's all I can pretty much say about it. I don't really remember like my thoughts on it.
It was pretty run of the mill stripper movie.
Yeah, you know. But I guess, I mean, I still kind of like seeing Jennifer Lopez in another movie, you know. So.
Yeah, it was good to see her. She did well. She did well in it.
Yeah. Did you see anything else?
I saw 50 First Dates twice, like back to back one night, because I was with my girlfriend. She wanted to see it. Like she just had it on DVD, and she fell asleep within like the first 10 minutes one night. And then the next night, and I watched the whole thing because I can't really fall asleep until I finish a movie. And the next night she wanted to watch it again because she didn't see it. So I was like, all right. So I saw it twice in a row, which is a bit maddening. But
I've only seen that movie once. I remember liking it, but I don't really remember much about it other than it was Adam Sandler, right?
Yep. Yeah. Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore, and
yeah.
Kind of, they would say, problematic these days because of the whole her not remembering shit. And
yeah, that's kind of some intense territory. Yeah.
But it was fine. I mean.
Yeah, romantic comedy.
Funny, like dumb funny, as most Adam Sandler movies are, but
yeah. He usually has pretty good casts. That's the thing that's interesting about his films, is that like none of his movies are really, I mean, most of his movies aren't really that good, but they have good actors in them, which I don't know, it's kind of interesting to me, you know.
Yeah, like his grown-ups movies, they're all like it's been like, you know, on the internet that he just makes movies for fun.
Yeah.
Even if they suck. And like, because I did extra work on Grown Ups, and it was fun to see, like, I was like there with Adam Sandler, Chris Rock, Kevin James, and everything. So it was fun to just see them fuck around on the set and everything. They were like playing some pickup basketball before like a scene. There was a scene where they had to play basketball and they were just messing around, and that was fun seeing them as normal people.
I mean, and you know, also like if you've worked on one of his movies, you know, that means that you're 1 degree away from like Al Pacino.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, so strange. Wow. So I saw a couple new films in the theater. I saw Joker.
Oh damn! I was trying to see that last night, yesterday, but I had to watch these movies.
Well, it was good. I liked it. It was, I mean, I wouldn't say it's like, it's pretty much as deep as you want it to be. Like, it's not like, I wouldn't say it's like a revolutionary movie or anything like that. I wouldn't go that far, but it was well made. And, you know, I mean, Joaquin Phoenix pretty much carried the whole movie.
Was his performance good? I heard it's amazing.
Yeah, his performance is pretty much the reason to see it. Like, because he like totally goes for it, like with the intense sort of character study. Yeah, I mean, it's actually like as a character study, it's not bad. You know, I mean, a lot of people kind of compare it to Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, which it is a lot like, but it sort of references those movies, so at least it knows that it's kind of imitating them. You know, and then like the movie isn't really that good until like, I'd say like maybe 2/3 of the way in, once he like, you know, I mean, if you've seen Taxi Driver and King of Comedy and films like that, you pretty much know like what happens to these kinds of characters, and they have a breaking point and they go off the deep end and stuff, And to me, like that's when the movie gets interesting.
Of course,
So I'd say see it for Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, that's the only reason really.
Yeah.
Not like I hate Batman, honestly. But...
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not like your run-of-the-mill sort of comic book inspired picture. It's definitely different. It's not sort of like following a sort of formula like a lot, which it's a reliable formula, of course, but it's doing something different, and
I like different.
It was good for what it was. It wasn't a perfect movie, but I did like it.
So what about him versus Ledger?
Oh,
who's the better Joker?
Oh gosh, they're so different from each other. They're both. I mean, I like both performances a lot. I'd say. I mean, I'm a bigger as good as an actor Heath Ledger was. I've always been a Joaquin Phoenix fan, like ever since I saw Gladiator.
Yeah.
And I've been a bigger fan of Joaquin Phoenix like longer than I did Heath Ledger.
Yeah, same here. And
even though I think it's sad that he died, I mean, I still like Joaquin Phoenix. If he's in a movie, I'm gonna see it. So, that was good. And then
and like those Nolan Batmans, I didn't like any of them because I hate Batman.
Yeah.
But I loved The Dark Knight just because it was a good movie overall. Not even if it had to do with superheroes or Batman. It was just like really dope movie. And
yeah, I think
Heath
pretty
Ledger,
much.
he was like shit.
I mean,
so good.
That was a great performance. I think pretty much everybody agrees that The Dark Knight is the best of the three.
Yeah.
For me, like that was a trilogy of wasted potential. Because I think that Batman Begins and the third movie, the Dark Knight Rises, I think both of those movies had some good qualities, but there were too many things about them that I felt they did totally wrong, and none of them are badly directed, but I wish that there were things wish that there were certain things about them that didn't happen like they did, but The Dark Knight of those three is probably the most it's the most solid, it's the most entertaining, it's the most confidently made, it has the best plot, and the Joker, the Heath Ledger is in it, so I pretty much agree. And then the other movie I saw was Ad Astra.
Oh, how was that?
I really, really liked it a lot, actually. I mean, I generally like outer space movies in general, and I just can't help but chuckle at the fact that that now it's Brad Pitt's turn to go into outer space. I
love Pitt too.
Yeah. Oh, he's amazing. I
really want to see that one.
Well. And he's been he's done two excellent performances this year. Like last Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and then this one, and I mean, definitely a great year for Brad Pitt. The movie itself, like, I really, really loved it, but like, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it just because it's a much more like quiet, meditative, sort of simple film. It's not really, it's not like the kind of thing that's super entertaining. It's really more the kind of film where you just sort of sit there and kind of like think about it and sort of let yourself get into it.
Yeah, I like those movies though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you do. I'm sure I just know that not everybody does. Like some people just don't really like stuff that's like too quiet or where there's like not a lot happening on screen. People like a lot of people constantly like need films to have something happening in them. And this one it's a much more human kind of story. Like you can really feel how far away from Earth he is in it. It's really more a film that's aiming for like realism and an atmosphere than anything else. So.
I'd probably like it because those are the ones I prefer over the
I think you'd like that one.
CGI action stuff.
Me too.
Sci-fi stuff, yeah.
Me too. Have you seen anything lately?
The last thing I watched on my flight back from Florida, I watched The Dead Don't Die.
Oh yeah.
Jim Jarmusch's new one.
Yeah.
It was okay.
Yeah.
I think the way they advertised it made it seem like it was going to be a different kind of movie.
Yeah,
but then again, it's Jim Jarmusch, so I don't know what else I was expecting.
Yeah.
What else has he done?
Oh gosh, he's done some great movies. He did
Broken Flowers.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah. He also did that movie Patterson recently.
Oh, I didn't see that.
That was good.
It's on my list. I mean,
Yeah,
I
he
have so
did,
many on my list, but yeah.
Yeah, his movies are really, most of his movies I really love actually. Dead Man, Down by Law, Stranger in Paradise. Like he's actually been making films for a while, and yeah, Dead Don't Die. I totally agree that they misadvertised it, because like most of his films are kind of more deadpan and withdrawn,
Yeah.
and you know, like it's a zombie movie and it's one in that like is deadpan and withdrawn. So
Okay,
like,
I like Deadpan, so I mean,
Yeah.
if it was like Broken Flowers, did it
Yeah.
have like the same feel as that, or is it?
Kind of.
He did a
it's-
horror movie not too long ago, Only Lovers Left Alive, which was a vampire movie, and it was the same kind of thing. Like,
Well, I got to see that one. I'm a vampire guy, so
yeah, it's just kind of very casually placed, like humor and situations. It's almost like situational, like filmmaking. I don't know. It's hard to describe. Like, not all of his movies I really like. I don't like all of his movies. There's some that didn't quite click with me. Like, there was this one film called Coffee and Cigarettes that he directed, which was
I
like,
know that one.
yeah,
It was on my list, but then I heard it sucked.
yeah, it's like a bunch of short films
Yeah.
that like all relate to, coffee and cigarettes, and
all black and white. too.
yeah, and like a couple of the parts in them were good, but most of them I just didn't quite get, or I kind of admired the idea of it more than I actually enjoyed like what it was, So that was a film of his that I didn't really like, and there's a couple others I didn't really like either. But in general, I like his movies, and I thought The Dead Don't Die was pretty consistent with the rest of his movies.
Yeah, it advertised it as like a fucking Zombieland kind of thing. I felt.
Yeah.
The trailers and stuff.
Yeah, definitely not that.
Yeah. That's
But
what I heard.
still good.
Yeah.
The other
he also
stuff.
did, he also did Ghost Dog.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
Don't know that one.
It's a hip hop samurai film, but it's directed almost like a French movie. It's
Yeah.
kind of hard to describe.
With the music by RZA.
Forrest Whitaker plays the main character.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
There's talk of a sequel at one point, like recently, but
Yeah.
I
That'd
don't
be
know about
funny.
that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a movie. I have some major problems with that movie, but I'd say if you want to get into Jim Jarmusch, that's actually probably not a bad one to start with, just because like it kind of gives you a good idea of like what his sense of humor is. Like, it's kind of subtle and not like absurd or loud. It's very quiet humor. So anyway, I can't think of anything else that I watched off the top of my head. Maybe I'll think of something later. But
Was there another movie you saw? You said.
The only other things I've been watching, I've been trying to watch all of the Halloween movies before Halloween. I've made it to 5. So basically all downhill from here.
Yeah.
You haven't made it to the worst one yet, so I feel really bad for you, honestly.
Which one do you think is the worst one?
Oh, Halloween 6 by far.
Oh, that's my next one.
Yeah. Oh, there's two different versions of it, and both are equally horrible. Like, that movie just never should have been made. And like, if there's one Halloween movie to skip, in my opinion, it's that one. And I say that knowing that the Halloween Resurrection is a part of the series. And I know a lot of people hate that one, but I would sooner watch that one than 6 again. In my opinion, 6 is just no good. So.
Yeah. Speaking of airplane movies, what's the best one you've watched on an airplane?
Snowpiercer.
Oh, nice. It's a good pick.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah. Mine would be, I saw Winter Soldier. That's where I saw it on.
Nice.
That's one of the few Marvel movies I enjoy. So
Probably The Dead Don't Die, because
Oh.
I used to bring my laptop all the time and just watch Scott Pilgrim every single flight.
Nice.
Uh,
There you go.
That's awesome.
Because they always have a weird selection on their little screens in the back of the seats.
yeah.
Sometimes
The-
a good one.
I flew Delta on the way back, and they had a bunch of new stuff, but I didn't feel like watching it on a tiny screen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those movies that probably wouldn't really be as good on a tiny screen anyway, 'cause there's a lot going on in that one visually. Like the kind of movies that would work better on tiny screens are one where you don't really have to look at them. You know, just listen to the dialogue.
Oh yeah, speaking of visually too, I was trying to rewatch, Breaking Bad. I didn't get back. I didn't finish it before Friday.
Yeah.
But like one thing I noticed rewatching it is it's a visually beautiful fucking show. I didn't notice on the first watch like just how strikingly beautiful it is, like with just all the color palettes. Like Vince has said, like colors mean shit, and then portrays like all the lighting and it's just crazy good to look at, even because I was like half watching, playing games, just trying to catch up and go through, and just watching just like visually strikingly beautiful with all the color palettes they use and everything.
Breaking Bad, yeah, that's
just one thing. Like I even could picture it being like rotoscoped into like an animated show with them just using the the audio over, and it would be like a sweet like anime or rotoscope thing, because it's very even like kind of cartoonish with some of the just how well like the costume design and sets and just the colors and everything. You could totally see it being an animated show too.
They really put a lot of thought into the storytelling aspect and the visual aspect. I totally agree. No, that show was made with a lot of depth. Best show in my just through the watch. It's like it's
perfect.
Pretty damn good. I don't know.
Did you get to watch El Camino yet?
No, I haven't yet. I'm gonna try tomorrow probably.
I'll probably do the same.
I'm probably gonna watch like the last 2 episodes and then El Camino, because the second to last episode, Ozymandias, is I think the best thing to ever been put on film. Of any. It was just like mind-blowingly good.
Yeah, I'm not sure when I'll watch the movie. I mean, I didn't really. I felt that Breaking Bad kind of ended fine the way it did, and I didn't really want a sequel or follow up to any of the character stories or anything. But I mean, I'll probably check it out at some point anyway, out of curiosity.
Yeah, no, I thought it had the perfect ending to like any series I've seen.
Yeah,
and I was like, I was skeptical with Better Call Saul, but that is just as good, if not better, but like a slower burn, but like a lot more deep and like just as good. And then I kind of agree. I don't think we needed to see the El Camino kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm also just super pumped to see it anyway. So.
Yeah, because I mean it's gonna be good.
Yeah, because it ended perfect. We didn't need to, but I'll welcome it. I welcome it.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll enjoy it just fine.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm sure I'll love it.
Cool. All right. So in the last episode, we decided to watch 3 different films. We all chose. So let's start with yours. The one that you chose.
It's October, so we went with some horror films for this one, and didn't really plan ahead of time. So I just quickly, while we were recording, Googled, and the one I found that struck my eye, as I am a vampire boy. It was I Bought a Vampire Motorcycle, and I was actually more surprised with how decent this movie was than I was expecting. The title, and like I don't remember which streaming service I saw it on. May have been actually Amazon Prime even. No, it was YouTube, right? That's where we could only.
That's where I watched it.
Yeah, and it was good. It was good quality. Like it wasn't like, I'm not sure if they personally uploaded it or something, but it was a good quality. But yeah, I was actually quite pleasantly surprised with how good like it looked, and the acting wasn't like all that like shit, but like.
Yeah.
No,
I really dug this film's atmosphere. I mean, it was definitely like it felt like it sort of took place in its own little contained world, even though that world sort of felt like a English version of Dead End Drive-In.
That was my best surprise. It was English. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if it was an English film or like just set in England. I didn't really look into the background of how it was made or who made it or what, but I did dig just the English setting, the British setting, or wherever the hell they were.
Yeah.
But was good. Yeah, so I guess the movie, the start of it, the plot of it, it starts off with some dudes. Don't know who they really were. I'm not sure if I missed who they were or it was ever explained. They were doing some kind of ritual.
Yeah, that was never touched upon again.
Okay, that's what I thought. And then this random biker gang, I assume, I don't know who they were at all throughout the whole movie. They were just there. And they come up and fuck up the ritual apparently and kill the dudes doing it. For a minute, for a minute you assume, oh, they stopped it, but nope.
No.
There was that funny CGI like fucking flame thing very shortly before.
Oh yeah, that weird like superimposition of like I was just like, wow, yeah.
Yeah, and then like blood of, I forget who was bleeding, but it like bled onto the tank of the
vampire motorcycle.
And yep, that's how it starts off. One thing I noticed throughout the whole thing, the blood looked like red fucking watercolor paint all the time for the most of it.
It was very stylish looking. The gore in this movie was pretty fun, Yeah.
And so one thing I also noticed, since it had a lot of allusions to just the Bram Stoker's Dracula story as well, just a couple characters kind of mirrored the ones they have in that. Like the main naughty guy, you could kind of make an allusion to him being the main character kind of guy, Jack Harker or Jonathan Harker.
Jonathan Harker, yeah.
Yeah. And then the one thing I was just confused by was the detective. Do you remember that guy with the glasses, the ball?
Yeah.
He ended up kind of...
I don't know who the fuck he was. And every single scene he was in, they were just playing some goofy-ass music. Some comical, goofy music.
His character kind of ended up amounting to pretty much nothing for the most part.
Yep.
I mean...
Exactly.
And, that kind of happened in a lot of horror movies back then. Like, where the police or the detectives or the people who you would expect to be in charge were just... completely useless, and I don't know, it kind of felt like another one of those. Although I don't know, I'm so used to that kind of thing, that these days I kind of get a kick out of it now.
So I was trying to make the illusions of who these characters are trying to be in the Dracula story. I pegged him first as maybe, just because we weren't introduced to everyone, maybe the Van Helsing or the Dr. Seward character. But he really didn't turn out to be either, because he was gone after the first half of the movie, and he just showed up every now and then. But Naughty's girlfriend was Mina Harker, and the priest guy who shows up, I think he was more of the Van Helsing.
Yeah. That's kind of the impression I got.
Yeah, because he was taking it serious and whipping out weapons, and he was chucking that ninja star cross and had some skills. He was like, oh, okay.
It felt like he was pretty much the only character in the movie that pretty much knew what was going on. Because everybody else was not too with it.
Mm-hmm. So I liked the first, I guess, murder or whatever. There was just they came into a crime scene, and there was blood all over the walls, but also tire tracks along the walls.
I like that.
I was like, okay. Didn't have, you drove on the wall. I mean, you could have panned down or shot down to the floor and saw tire tracks too, but no, they decided to make him drive on the wall as well. Why not? Oh yeah, and one thing that I also made me think that that detective was a Van Helsing character was every time he showed up, they always commented, oh, why there's this garlic smell.
Oh gosh.
and
That was
there was no reason to believe it so far, unless you like him showing up. He's like, "Oh, there's this strong scent of garlic," and even like the girlfriend, like he came in close to her, and yeah, it smells like garlic, and then she like did that. Oh,
That was
never mind, it went away.
that was a
Kind of
charming
like
touch.
yeah, kind of like she noticed. Oh, it's him that smells like it. Oh no, never mind, it went away. So, so that kind of threw a wrench in the loop, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think like I like the way the motorcycle kind of what was going on with it like throughout the movie. It kind of started to look different, like
Yeah, it
or
was
shift
evolving.
around. Yeah.
So what I like one thing, like one of the scenes I noticed too is
It's like Hellraiser.
there was just a shot of it like following some chick. I think maybe the girlfriend. It was just like checking, like just a shot of its ass, and then just like stupid stuff. Like it was like a horny vampire bike,
Yeah.
which a lot of vampire stuff is sexual innuendo type things anyway.
Yeah.
And then like just there was that bike chase scene where it just like turned around and just drove through the middle of all the bikes, and then they all just kind of fell over. It didn't look like it hit any of them.
There's like the force of the vampire powers
right,
or whatever.
vampire force, I think it had of some sort.
Yeah, like the projectile. Yeah. It's definitely very campy. Like, I liked how energetic and loud it was. Like it was kind of one of those like sort of. I don't know. It felt kind of electric. Like, I don't know. I like the way this was directed. It kind of felt like a early kind of Peter Jackson movie a little bit. I mean, not quite as good as that, but sort of like creative and inventive, sort of along the same lines at times. Then other times it was just kind of stupid. Like, I don't know, like the dream sequence, like.
The one, that was my next point, was going to be that one dream sequence.
Yeah.
Where so he took a shit, right?
Yeah.
And then he turned up and they was like talking to him and like just jumped right in his mouth and started choking on him. So he's choking on his own shit. But it turns out he wakes up and he was like eating sheets, and I was like,
Yeah,
that was
like,
just like disgusting. Disgusting visual. I was like, what the fuck was that about?
that was a bit weird. Yeah.
I
Like
did not get it.
I don't know. I mean, like dream sequences and nightmare sequences in movies can be interesting if it's like the way they did it in American Werewolf in London was really cool. Which I don't know if you guys have seen that one, but like there's yeah, like that has some really weird dream sequences in it where like you're not sure if the character's dreaming or not, and it's like something weird happens, and it's usually like pretty shocking and jarring, and so like I don't know. So that dream sequence was
very jarring.
It was definitely jarring. They got that down. But I don't know. Wasn't quite as good as the dream sequence in some of David Cronenberg's movies. The one I'm thinking of in particular, I think Dead Ringers had a good dream sequence in it, or nightmare sequence, I should say. Like, I guess that's technically what it is, since the characters like something inexplicable happens and then they wake up and it's like, oh. So.
Yeah, and one little detail I liked is that the bike only started at nighttime.
Oh yeah.
Every now and then they would show up trying to start it in the day.
Yeah, this movie is like surprisingly it follows vampire lore like decently.
That's honestly why I appreciated it a lot, since I'm a vampire boy.
Yeah.
And like it like would drive into the garage instead of a coffin at night, and like, or in the morning, I mean.
Yeah. I mean,
that
it
was
was like,
pretty interesting, and like it was. I liked how it showed it was empty on fuel when it needed to feed. It's like, oh, it's kind of creative. And at first, I wasn't sure whether or not it fed off of other bicycles, because there was that one time where, like, I don't know, they were in the bar or something, and you just saw the bike like hopping up and down on another bike. Like, I don't know what the fuck it was doing. But later on, it does reveal that it eats human blood for fuel. So, and I liked the little prongs that just kind of came out.
the
And like,
spikes.
Just like a vampire teeth and shit.
That was funny.
And then, oh yeah, that bar scene. That bar scene where everyone just started going crazy.
That was my favorite part.
Yeah,
was
the fight scene and the axe guy, which his name was Chopper.
Yeah.
And all he was doing was taking axes and just smashing plates. I was like, what the fuck? And you,
That
I
was
like,
great.
All right, man, that's your deal.
Yeah.
Just smash plates with your axe, and your name's Chopper.
Which makes me think, like, what's the best bar fight you've ever seen in a movie? It's a tough one to think about. I guess everybody's first sort of go-to answer would probably be like Terminator 2 or something, or like just something, or like a Van Damme movie. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a good one in Ong Bak, I think.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. All the fight scenes in those movies are pretty epic. But there was this movie that came out in the 70s called what the heck was it called? I don't remember the name of it. It'll come to me. Anyway, yeah, you can keep going. Sorry.
I mean, I would just say I don't have anyone in particular, but I assume there's some type of bar fighting and Jackie Chan Drunken Master.
Oh yeah.
So,
The whole
I don't know if there is, but that.
Good answer. Good answer.
Yep. So also, I just have like a general question. If you guys know or caught it, what was that biker gang? Were they like just pissed off? Were they like on drugs, or were they also possessed? Because they just always showed up fucking weird and
Yeah, like kind of the rival bike gang or whatever.
yeah. I didn't know what their deal was in the first place. They just were just showing up all the time, looking like strung out or just fucking weirded.
Well, I've noticed that in some movies, like about like gangs, that instead of gangs in a lot of movies being organized, like where the people like are actually like smart and like destroying things in an intelligent way, it's almost like just a group of rioters. I see that sometimes in movies, like, and yeah, I don't know, like, I just assumed that they were just nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, I could.
My best guess.
Yeah, I couldn't try to think too deeply about this movie because, like, I mean, I'm glad that okay, I kind of get what you mean earlier when you were saying you weren't sure if this, like, that you were surprised by how good this was, because like, oftentimes, like, a movie that has like a gimmick or like a killer this or killer like a killer, like there's that movie The Mangler about a killer laundry press, which. But like in movies where they have like some kind of gimmick, like most of the time the gimmick is kind of the only thing it has going for it. The movies by the Asylum Pictures are good examples of that. The Sharknado movies where like you watch them and it's like, oh it's gonna be sharks in a tornado, but that's pretty much that's the most imagination that the film really offers you ultimately, so it's a pleasant surprise when you see a movie that has kind of a gimmick in the title, like a vampire motorcycle, go, and actually does, like, takes it, I mean, doesn't take it itself totally seriously, but takes itself like seriously enough that you actually kind of care about what's going on in it, interestingly enough. Like, I mean,
yeah.
Even though like I didn't care about the characters, but I wanted to see what would happen, ultimately.
Yeah.
Even though it didn't really have a whole lot of logic to it. I mean, the vampire logic it had down pat, but it didn't really have much human logic though.
Nope.
So
yeah.
It kind of felt like an older movie. I was surprised that it was made in like the early 90s or late 80s. Like
I think it was 90.
Yeah. It felt like it was like a 70s movie almost, or maybe like a Hammer picture or something like that. I mean, it had like a schlocky aspect to it, like a lot of like Troma movies do, or like Full Moon Video, except it wasn't as goofy as those. It took itself a little bit more seriously, even though it had the talking shit and a few other things. Like, I mean, I don't know. It was, but yeah, like. I liked it. I thought it was pretty cool. It was pretty silly, but I wanted. But I mean, that's something you kind of hope for, with these kinds of films.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts?
Let me see what I wrote down. uh, um, the scene in the hospital after the priest gets his fingers cut off. Like,
Yeah.
he's just walking around, and then the girl is just in there for like bruises. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
And then she just watches everyone else get killed, just sitting there at the end there.
Yeah. I mean, that was another allegory or whatever you call it for Dracula as well, because that character was in the bed for most of the book. So
I
that's
could
what
I could
pictured
kind
it.
of picture, not to interrupt you, but I could kind of picture like people who aren't familiar with the source material of Bram Stoker's book Dracula, or haven't seen a Dracula movie before. If they watch this, a lot of it would probably be pretty inexplicable. Like, because ultimately it kind of doesn't really make sense that a film like this would go in the direction it goes in. I mean, 'cause it's a movie about bikers.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. I like the scene when it decapitated the two dudes.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah.
was dope.
It was actually the effects. I mean, the effects were bad, but they were like, at least they looked, like they were fun to put together. I mean, it was, yeah, it definitely looked better than CGI blood.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
I like when it started evolving too. Like the headlights look like teeth.
yeah, the design was epic.
I kind of like the design of the bike and shit. It had spikes and everything.
Yeah.
And I wished it like looked more fangy instead of just like a regular teeth. That would have been better, but
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like they were definitely kind of aiming more for like the whole stylistic kind of aspect of it rather than the logic. I mean, I don't know, but I feel. I mean, there's definitely a place for movies like this. I mean, yeah, it's so genre. It follows its genre like so well. Like this was definitely made for like a very specific audience, and I think the people who made it like knew that, and it was just yeah.
And then just like the exorcism scene, I thought that was interesting as well, because it's not all. It's like, so is it a demon or a vampire? I mean, there are definitely ones that they're both in certain stories, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The vampires in that are demons as well, but like so they tried to exorcise the bike, which did not work out well.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the concept of that was interesting. The execution.
Yeah, then that's when it turned into the super vampire.
Yeah.
Too.
Which I don't know. What'd you think of the ending?
I laughed so hard when the priest turned into Jesus, basically. Like, he got his hand stuck like the stigmata on the cross, and then it like came down and light was shining on him, and it was just.
I mean, I gotta tell you, I find it so funny when vampire films use religious imagery. Like for some reason, it's just like that always makes me chuckle. I remember what was that the Dracula 2000 movie that came out in the early 2000s where Gerard Butler plays Dracula. I mean, that movie uses religious imagery so liberally, like it just, I couldn't take any of it seriously. I mean, I don't know. I always find that funny for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of vampire stuff is the whole lore tied pretty heavily to religion in a lot of different cultures and stuff. So it's always something there.
Yeah.
Like crosses being the weakness and shit, and holy water and all that stuff.
Yeah. It was good. Have you guys ever seen let's see, Blackula?
I own it, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was definitely of its time.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, what would you give it on a scale of 1 to 5?
Me, I'd go 4. Yeah, I actually like. I was low expectations, but I liked it.
Yeah.
Just cause, and mostly because I'm like the vampire stuff, so
Yeah.
probably give it a higher than it should be, but
I'd probably give it a 3 because I didn't have too many problems with it. I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty fun. I thought there were certain aspects of it that were more ambitious than I expected. I mean, it was great. It was definitely like the kind of movie it was. I don't think I'd watch it again, but I don't know. Maybe I would.
I might even buy it on DVD if I can find it.
Yeah.
Just for the collection.
Yeah.
I'd buy it as well. I'd also give it a 3. I was also pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't bad for a movie about a vampire motorcycle. You know?
It's probably one of the better killer inanimate objects movies I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have to
I
agree.
think so.
There's not a tremendous amount of good ones. There's one that's kind of interesting. Deathbed, the bed that eats.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I want to see that one.
Yeah, that one's pretty trippy. There's a lot I could say about that, but maybe another day.
Another pod.
Yeah, could do another killer inanimate objects.
Hey, that could be a theme for one
Yeah.
an
Maybe.
episode.
Yeah, we definitely at some point got to watch Mac and Me though.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. So yeah, so I bought a vampire motorcycle. All 3 of us liked it. So
Yeah.
So the next movie, it was my choice, which is a film from the 70s called Alice, Sweet Alice. And the reason I chose this one was because I remembered seeing it a long time ago. I think it was one of those movies that my dad like had in a crate of films that he didn't really want me to watch. It also had stuff like The Reflecting Skin and a couple other movies. I think The Grifters was in there, Road to Wellville. Anyway, so so I remember when I watched it, I mainly watched it because it was a movie I knew I wasn't supposed to watch, and I remember I didn't really remember a tremendous amount about it. I just remember it having a lot of weird Catholic imagery. I remember the killer mask being like the killer's mask being really scary. And I just remember that one. I remember it scared me like really bad.
You know what that mask reminded me of though?
What?
That movie Happy Death Day.
Oh.
It's very, very similar, except the Happy Death Day one isn't as transparent.
Yeah.
And a little chubbier, but it looks almost exactly the same otherwise.
Yeah. It's an interesting mask, transparent.
Yeah, it is a creepy mask. Yeah.
But yeah, so I hadn't watched Alice, Sweet Alice since then, so I rewatched it, and I gotta say I really, really loved this movie a lot. Actually, like it kind of blew me away. Actually, I don't remember it being this good, and I won't call it perfect. Obviously, there's definitely aspects of it that are way overdone, and I'm not going to call the acting good or anything like that. It kind of reminds me of like a stage play almost, but which I'm not trying to knock stage plays, but there's a difference between play acting and film acting, and the actors in this kind of feel like they're acting on stage almost, but to me, like, I feel like it gave the film like a really interesting kind of creepy, cheap quality to it. Like it was creepy in its cheapness. It's the kind. Okay, so basically, the plot of this movie involves.
You need to explain this to me because I was lost the entire movie. Honestly,
All right.
I had no idea what was going on.
That's all right. All right.
All of it,
so here's the plot. So basically, there's these 2 sisters, right? There's like the good sister who's played by Brooke Shields, which is like her first film that she had ever been in, and her sister. So Brooke Shields' character, she's the perfect sister, and she's this girl named Karen, and then her sister Alice, who people are really sketched out by. Most adults in her life can't stand her because she's very loud and obnoxious, and she has really poor judgment. She does a lot of things wrong, and she also, like, a lot of things tend to go wrong when she's around people. She's almost like the bad seed, you know, and that's kind of the way she gets introduced in this movie, as this girl who's basically has sociopathic tendencies, you know. And so then the film so it starts off being about these two sisters, and it's kind of like, all right, so, you know, it's a horror movie, you kind of know like what direction it's going to go in. But then one of the sisters is murdered at I think it was her first communion or something like that. Like they were like in the line, yeah. And so then it shifts into a murder mystery. So it goes from sort of being a movie about like this girl who is, you know, gonna fuck shit up and is gonna like ruin all these people's lives and stuff like that, to being a murder mystery where that could still be the possibility. Like, she could still actually be behind what's going on, you know, because the film already demonstrates that she has the tendencies, the kind of serial killer type of tendencies to do this kind of thing, you know, to actually hurt people and kill people, because people start dying, you know. And then the film, like about an hour in, kind of preemptively, it actually reveals who the murderer is. And I'm not going to spoil who the murderer is. It might be Alice, it might not be. You know, the film kind of leaves some aspects of it ambiguous, but I'm not going to spoil that part because that's too complicated, you know. But to summarize, it's almost like it goes from being one movie to another kind of movie, and then when you find out who the killer is, it goes from being who done it to why did they do it. And the last half an hour, like, it pretty much explores why this person is doing this and why this particular character is murdering people. And it's actually much more complicated and weird than one would expect it to be. So it's kind of like it's a Catholic themed horror movie, and I felt like I was very captivated by it. Like, I felt like the direction it went in and the payoff and everything, it just kept me guessing. And I couldn't predict where it was going ultimately, because I couldn't remember anything about it other than like the visuals and the mask and all that stuff. So I'm really glad that I rewatched this, actually. Personally, I loved it. So.
I mean, I didn't honestly, like, I honestly half paying attention-ish because I was just cleaning up the room too to get ready for the podcast, and I was like taking as much notes and trying to pay attention as much as I could, but I missed a bunch. Like, I honestly, with the spoiler of like who the other killer might be, I don't know. I really didn't recall who that was.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And then the why, I have no idea why.
Oh.
I have no idea why or what is happening except for like.
Well, should we get into spoiler territory? Or
I think so, because I don't have any idea what happened.
That's fine. Well, like, I mean, Zach, do you have any thoughts? Or?
I didn't like it as much as I thought I was going to. Like, yeah. Going into it, I thought it was going to be like a straight up slasher, and that's why I think I didn't like it as much as I thought I was going to, but still decent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got like slasher / exorcist vibes from it. Not like it was like anything supernatural demonish, but you know, they had like a few scenes of them trying to, you know, analyze the girl.
Yeah.
Which was very, you know, Exorcist reminiscent when they were, you know, running tests on her in The Exorcist and shit.
Yeah.
But it was, instead of, you know, demony, it was more like slashery, trying to figure out like why is she being a crazy little girl?
And the girl who played her, by the way, was actually 19.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Really?
So yeah. So Paula Shepherd, she's only been in 2 movies. This and another movie called Liquid Sky, which that was another. Okay, so that's a movie that I forgot to mention that I rewatched. I watched that one a couple days ago because after I watched Alice Sweet Alice, I wanted to watch that one too, just because I don't know, because Paula Shepherd, yeah, like she was so strange in this movie, and I wanted to see, because I remembered her being strange in Liquid Sky as well, and I ended up like, because I hadn't seen that film for a while either, and I ended up loving that one too. So, but Paula Shepherd, like this Alice Sweet Alice and Liquid Sky, those are the only two movies she's ever been in, and she's never like done interviews. Nobody knows like where she is or what she's doing these days. Like
she did
she's
not look 19.
Yeah.
No.
I thought she was like a kid, like 12, 13.
Yeah.
Kind of makes the landlord scenes a little less creepy.
Yeah, oh, that guy creeped me the fuck out.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the landlord. That guy was
That was the creepiest part of the movie for me.
awful.
That
Yeah.
creepy motherfucker.
Yeah, no, that was creepy, and it was disturbing too. And it really like, and he had all these cats,
And he was
And-
eating cat food too at one point.
Yeah.
and he's just like this creepy like, pervert who's flirting with this girl, and like it's just like, oh, I don't know. And I like, but as soon as you see him though, he's so disgustingly evil that you just know he's got to die, and you just
Yeah.
know that when he dies, it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. So, so to get into spoilers, so basically, the murderer, the person who is killing people, it turns out that it's not Karen, or no, it's not Alice. In fact, Alice thinks that it's her sister Karen who's doing it, even though Karen was murdered at her first communion. But it turns out that it's actually the housemaid who is the murder. She's like this.
Yeah, I didn't know who she was.
Yeah, she's this Catholic housemaid who, you see her kind of in the background of the film throughout like the first like half of it, and she's not really doing a whole lot, but she's definitely like a part of the plot, but like her character isn't really involved in what's going on. And there's so many little kind of things going on throughout this film with the characters and the aunts and their relations and stuff that you don't really have time to think about like what anybody else's motivations are other than Alice's. She's pretty much the only character who it would make sense would be the murderer, but it turns out that it's the housemaid who's the murderer. And when you find that out, then then the rest of the film is pretty much from her perspective. So the film totally shifts perspective. And it's about her basically trying to kind of come to terms with the fact that she's in love with the preacher, and that she's having a psychotic episode. And like when you see that aspect of it, like it's actually like, I don't know, it's actually kind of sad. Like to me, it was just kind of a depressing, sad, strange situation, because like all the characters in this movie like are so hell-bent on this one girl being the person behind all this stuff that like they're kind of like, it's almost like they want her to be the killer. And it sort of ends up becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy, because by the end of the movie, she ends up pretty much traumatized, and she's left with the murder weapon too, which indicates that she could
Oh, yeah.
she could
I wrote that down.
yeah
Girl has nice. That's why.
yeah I
This
mean
is my last note.
it's like, to me, it's a movie about basically the birth of a serial killer. Like this is how somebody becomes a serial killer, is when they're a misfit and everybody treats them like a misfit, then they become like what people want them to be, which is a monster, And I just found that interesting because it was about a young girl, who these people were basically turning into a monster.
Didn't the young girl actually end up killing people at the end, or was that?
No, she ended up not killing anybody. She ended up being totally innocent, actually. She did pull pranks, like she poured bugs on the landlord's crotch or whatever it was she did. And I think she stole or she like locked her sister in the room at one point. Like she was a troubled kid, but because she was such a misfit in this whole strict Catholic environment, they basically forced her to become a monster. And it was just a really interesting way to kind of show that. I mean, I don't know. I found it great,
Yeah, I mean, I just wasn't that drawn in or entertained.
Yeah.
Honestly, that was my only big beef with it. Was just, I don't know, a little slow.
Yeah.
too. So
sometimes like a movie that I won't like the first time, I'll watch it again 10 years later and I'll just be in a better mood, or I'll be in like the right mindset. Or sometimes if I know like what happens in it,
again,
it kind of helps. Who knows?
It was a case where I was not expecting that kind of thing, but I should have, since I knew you picked it. So I was like, oh, it's probably a little more serious or something than what I was thinking of. So it came in with the wrong kind of mindset. I was like, this isn't as cheesy as all the other ones we've been doing so far, but like,
yeah.
So
I should choose a cheesier one next time.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter. I just should have gone in with more of a aware of that. It was like more straightforward horror than, and I think probably on another viewing, knowing what it is, I'll enjoy it more. I think.
Yeah. Sounds good. Cool. All right. Any final thoughts?
I don't think so.
What do you guys give it on a scale of 1 to 5?
I believe I gave it a 2.5.
Cool.
I'm gonna have to give it a 2.
Nice.
Yeah.
I give it a 5.
Damn.
I'm sure my rating will go up after second watch.
Yeah, mine probably.
Going into it knowing more.
And maybe mine will go down after second watch.
Yeah.
It'll all equalize. So anyway, cool. All right. So movie number 3.
All right, number 3 is mine. I picked Chopping Mall. Before I go into the plot, I wanted to mention the director. Have you seen his other credits? They're ridiculous. There's like his latest one was called Cobra Gator.
Cobra Gator.
Yeah, he makes weird movies like that, and then like The Hills Have Thighs. Like,
oh nice.
Is he still directing, or are these just?
Yeah.
So these are newer movies.
The Hills Have Thighs.
Okay.
Of course they do.
That was hilarious.
I like that one.
Yeah.
All right, so Chopping Mall. Basically about the teens. Were they teens? Like that was one thing.
They were
I don't
kind
think
of
so.
old-looking teenagers.
Yeah.
They were working. They were working folks.
They weren't quite the teenagers in Sleepaway
And they
Camp.
could at least buy beer, apparently. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they party in a mall and get trapped in with killer robots. That's the basic plot.
And those are the cutest killer robots I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Absolutely adorable.
I'm surprised this hasn't got remade because security robots are actually a thing now.
Yeah. Seen 'em.
It will get remade, I bet.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I liked their little hands, the clampy hands.
Yeah.
The ones
Basically
that look like
snapping.
those extender things for old people to grab stuff off the shelves.
it was a nice touch.
I
Yeah.
just laughed every time they went. Clip, 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 clip.
And then the terrible looking lasers.
Oh my god, the lasers.
But it had one of the best head explosions I've seen in a movie.
Yes,
That was an
I
amazing
was
head
gonna
explosion.
Bring that one up, yeah. That was fucking awesome.
It was so good they showed it twice,
They showed it at the end credits of
Yeah.
that actress.
which I didn't even remember. That's
Yeah.
perfect. I actually by the way, at the beginning, what was it? There was the cameo appearance by 2 characters that were in another movie. So Paul Bartel and
the
Mary
couple
Ward.
at the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted.
Yeah.
I didn't know who those were. I figured they were important because they kept
Yeah.
showing them. And what I wrote down was because their dialogue was just insane.
Yeah.
I was like, "Are these jokes? Are they joking, or is this
Yeah.
like, are they being?"
Yeah, they're jokes. So basically, those are 2 characters from another movie called Eating Raoul, which is this dark comedy that was made in the 80s, which some people, I mean, I know a lot of people who like that one. I'm not crazy about it. Just that one's a little too much for me. But I just thought it was a little too over the top. But I think but a lot of people I know really like that one. And basically, like they're 2 characters in that, and it's about them. Basically, like they want to open up a restaurant, but they don't know, like they don't have any money, and they start basically killing people. And stealing their wallets, and it's a pretty. I don't think it would age very well if it were, or I don't think it would kind of resonate very well with people if it were made today. But like back then, like people weren't afraid to make really decadent, messed up comedies, you know, and the title Eating Raoul, like that kind of tells you everything. But anyway, those two actors, or those two, they were playing their characters that were in that movie, Eating Raoul.
Okay, yeah.
So.
The one line that I laughed at, it was the last one, so it was the only one I wrote down. It was, they remind me of your mother. It's the laser eyes. Oh, I got you with that one.
Ooh. Yeah. Mother-in-law humor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shopping mall is good. Oh my god.
Yeah. So one of the main things I had written down was like, instead of being smart and trying to like run away and shit, they just grabbed a bunch of guns and tried to kill him. Like,
I know.
That was one thing I wrote down too. Is like, is there a sporting goods thing? Yeah. And then it was decked out to the nines with a full armory of fucking shotguns, assault rifles. I was like,
yeah.
I think they have hunting rifles at sporting goods stores, but do they have assault rifles in a sporting goods store? I don't think so.
Maybe in the 80s, I don't know.
True.
Well, yeah. Well, malls back then, maybe back then they had all kinds of firearms and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, because that was something I thought about when I watched the original Dawn of the Dead.
I mean, this reminded me of that, but not as. I mean, Dawn of the Dead way better, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trapped in mall horror.
Yeah. As far as mall horror movie goes, as far as mall horror movies go, Chopping Mall is no Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Malls are hard to. I mean, these days you probably couldn't make a mall horror movie anymore, really.
Yeah, because malls really don't exist.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amazon.
Pretty much, yeah. The Amazon Mall exists. The digital Amazon Mall exists. I guess that counts. But you know, it's a bummer because I remember like I wrote a short story when I was younger about a serial killer at a mall, and I always thought that would be cool, but now I'll never get the chance to make it.
Nope.
Teardrop.
Damn.
Just got to be a period piece now.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you know, people. I mean, period pieces are in. I mean, people really like the old vintage stuff now, and they're
Stranger Things.
Yeah, gotta bring it back.
90s are coming up, and they're gonna probably start making 90s period pieces.
Yeah, probably.
Yep.
Soon.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, most definitely. They're gonna like start, like, I don't know. I mean, when you look back at a lot of 90s movies, it's pretty depressing how badly we represented ourselves. Like, you know, I'm still kind of haunted by Kazam, I gotta say. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, but back to Chopping Mall, like, so yeah, I don't know, these characters were kind of interesting, I thought.
One thing I want to, before it started, is an electrical storm was the reason why they went haywire.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of lame. Like, I think that would be one of the first, like, fail safes a scientist creating it would say, if there's an electrical surge, turn them off. You know, it's more cliche, but like the bad programming kind of route probably would have made, I mean, definitely more cliche, but it was fun anyway. Either way, it was still fun.
Yeah. Or go the small soldiers route and put military chips in them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Small soldiers.
I loved that movie as a kid.
I did too, actually. Do you think that movie would exist if this movie didn't?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Gremlins exists. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so the effects weren't super great. I mean,
Typical 80s effects.
Yeah. Although I have to say, like, the part where the one girl is set on fire, like, I mean, for some reason when people get killed by burning to death, that always wigs me out for some reason.
That one didn't really, because it wasn't that great done.
Yeah.
You could tell it was a stunt in a flame retardant thing, because it was just like the back of her thing, and she was just going
Yeah.
Yeah. You could totally tell it was like,
yeah.
Definitely they do them bad, something or good in other ones, but
Yeah.
I kind of laughed at that.
I mean, yeah, I probably would have too if I like if for whatever I don't know for some reason like seeing people on fire like wigs me out. I have no idea why, you know. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was definitely 80s. You know, it definitely was like the kind of movie that people in the 80s probably went to the mall to see. Actually, like
Yeah.
after getting out of the roller rink, it's like, hey, want to go see Chopping Mall? Yeah, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know, but the director. So I don't know his other movies. Like, so do any of them sound promising? I mean,
In a bad way, yeah.
okay.
But I'm sure we'll cover those in the future.
Well, The Hills Have Thighs. I am a little curious about.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of like Skinamax stuff that he's done.
Nice.
And then a bunch of those like Super Croc versus Dino whatever.
Dinosaur.
Yeah.
Dino. Oh man. Well, like, I remember in the 90s there were some. I mean, there weren't a whole lot of dinosaur movies. Jurassic Park was like the big one, and then aside from that, there was maybe like Rawhide Rex and like I guess Prehysteria.
That Whoopi
There's
Goldberg
a
cop movie.
Tammy and the T-Rex.
Theodore Rex. Oh wait, what was that you said?
Tammy and the T-Rex.
Tammy and the
Yeah.
T-Rex.
Have you heard of that one?
No.
It's just getting a Blu-ray release, so that's the only reason I've heard of it.
Ah, okay. Tammy and the T-Rex. Well, sounds not really any better than Theodore Rex, but
No.
I don't know. That's just based on the title, you know. The movie itself could be all right. But anyway, yeah, like, I don't know. I thought Chopping Mall was pretty great. I would give it 3 out of 5. I think, you know, I was entertained.
I mean, so I wanted to go back like to the characters. Like,
yeah.
That Michael guy, the buff dude.
Oh.
One thing that always I was just like, he's chewing gum very aggressively in every scene.
Yeah.
Like he was not without gum in his mouth.
It's like,
And the microphone was picking it up too. You could hear that.
Yeah.
he's like chewing the world's biggest bubble gum. It's awful.
Yeah, it was
It's like, oh.
Jesus. I mean, even during like the sex scene, I have a feeling he had the gum in his mouth the whole time.
Probably.
Oh man, he was my favorite just because of that. Just
gum
chewing
chewer.
the gum chewing. Like what? I wonder if that was an actor choice or director choice.
He's inspired by Violet Beauregard. The sex scenes in this movie were like, I don't even remember them. Like, I don't know.
But all 3 of them happened in one scene.
Yeah.
Or all
It was
3 of them.
basically an orgy, not a party.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess that was cool in the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is interesting to kind of examine 80s films and wonder, like, I mean, actually, you can pretty much guess that 80s movies probably represented themselves just as good as 90s movies represented themselves. So not very good, probably.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's still like, I think it's, I don't know. It's like a cute little iconic. I mean, it's not iconic, but it's a cute reflection of the time period, you know. And it was a Roger Corman movie, so, which I don't know, Roger Corman, like, he kind of specialized in really cheap kind of films that would, I mean, sometimes they'd be made in like a series of like 3 or 4 days. And actually the thing that was interesting about them is that like most of them weren't even half bad. Like they were bad, but like they were watchable though. Like, you know, they weren't just like really cheap, crappy, like people in costumes and stuff. I think like, I don't know, he knew how to use a low budget. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what are your ratings?
I also give it a 3.
Nice.
Yeah, that would be my rating too. 3. I feel like this was like the quintessential cheesy B movie, like hit all the notes that it needed to hit.
Yeah, it delivered exactly what it promised.
Yeah, because I have heard of this one too beforehand, and was looking forward to it, and yeah, it delivered exactly how I thought it would, and it was good.
Yeah, it was cheesy in the right ways. It was fun in the right ways. It was great, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would probably watch it again.
Oh yeah, I'd probably watch it every now and then,
Yeah.
all the time, honestly.
Yeah. I really dug it. It had a
It's
cool
a
style.
fun, funny movie.
Yeah. All right, cool. So
Nice.
next time, or not next time, but the let's see, I'd say
Next,
the
like, actual episode.
Yeah.
I mean, the top 5. We should probably mention that in this episode.
Explain it.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. So the
I
next
guess-
episode. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the next episode, we're gonna talk about our top 5 favorite horror movies.
Yeah, I
And,
think every other episode we're gonna do top 5s, just so we can have content every week.
yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah. Do double records, right?
Yeah.
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 Makes it a bit easier for scheduling.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, next week's episode is our top 5 favorite horror movies. So
And are we gonna tell them what we're doing for the actual movie reviews this episode or the top 5 episode?
What would you guys rather do? We probably could mention it here too.
yeah, sure.
It's like-
So the Sunday after Halloween, the movies that we are going to review that day are going to be Halloween themed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what we decided on. So, which, you know, because it kind of fits into the holiday that is occurring that weekend, so, or that week. So, but anyway, so do you guys already know what your choices are, or?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I could go first.
Sure.
It's probably, you might be able to, no, you wouldn't probably be able to guess, but it's very on theme with the movie I chose this week as well. But I chose Stan Helsing.
Stan Helsing.
Have you
Okay.
either of you seen it or heard of it?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Okay, good.
I have not seen it, and I have not heard of it.
It looks bad. I mean, it has a bunch of big Hollywood names. Like, it's not necessarily maybe it's pretty cheap as far as, you know, bigger names go, but it has like Kenan Thompson and shit, and
Oh.
Leslie Nielsen, I think, is even in it, it looks like.
Excellent.
But, you know, it's a 2009 film as well, but it looks real cheesy. So, and it takes place at a Halloween party, and so
Nice.
vampires are possibly in it too. So, yeah.
Well, I'm definitely gonna. Yeah. All right. Cool. So Stan Helsing. My choice also takes place at a Halloween party. It's called Murder Party. I have seen it, but I want to watch it again. And yeah, that's my choice. It's by the same director as Hold the Dark and Green Room and Blue Ruin.
Oh shit.
So-
Okay.
That should be good then.
That'd be a good movie though.
Yeah. It's
Actually, like-
possibly.
It's an earlier film of his, and yeah, I don't know. I'm curious as to what your thoughts will be on it.
It just got added to Netflix because I just added it to my watch list not too long ago. So.
Okay.
Cool.
And my pick is Satan's Little Helper.
Oh, nice. All right, excellent.
I don't really know what it's about, but it looks pretty cheesy and takes place around Halloween.
I've seen that director. I've seen a couple other films by that director, but I haven't seen that one. So
Okay.
Yeah.
That's next episode.
Alrighty.
cool. All right,
Nice.
sounds good. All right, until then, peace.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Cool.